Hi, thanks for joining me. I am ecstatic to share with you my personal story on how hiring a coach changed my life. If this is your first time engaging with any of my content, I am Danielle the coach. I'm a certified life and leadership coach. And what I do is I help millennials navigate life and leadership authentically, redefine success, and show up powerfully in any setting. Millennial, you've been looking for a coach, it's a good chance that I'm your girl. If you are millennial, didn't know that you needed a coach, it's a good chance that I'm your girl. Anyway, I will get to my story because I don't want to keep you long, but I definitely thought it was worth me sharing my own personal testament on how hiring a coach, investing in a coach, significantly impacted my life, changed my life. So I was at a state in my professional career where I was so frustrated. I was feeling so unfulfilled. I remember talking to one of my mentors at work who worked in a division that I had moved on from. And I was just talking about, how things were going. She inquired how this new position was. And I told her I hated it. I hated it. It wasn't for me. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it was a definite aha moment for me because what I thought I wanted to do or I was willing to do, once I actually flexed the muscle and found myself in that exact position, I learned that this is not so much what I want to do, even though I can do it and I am skilled and I have the education and training to do it. This is not, you know, is not making my heart pound. So one way that I described how I was feeling in that moment or in that season, I should say, is I remember vividly telling her, I said, I really feel like I'm withering away, sitting at this desk doing this job. I am withering away. I am not fulfilled. And I'm to the point like I don't care. And that's so not like me. I'm the type of person that when I'm doing something, doing a job, my name is on it, I'm giving 150%. It was hard for me to even get out the bed in the morning. So by the time I showed up, I had probably had a few choice thoughts by that hour. And it just made getting through each day more and more difficult because my heart wasn't in it. And so I finally reached a point of being frustrated enough and and sitting in my discomfort that I took it upon myself to begin to think about where do I go from here? I know how I got here. In that particular job, it was super strategic. I was commuting for 2 hours from Richmond to Washington to DC daily, the 2 hours one way. So about 4 hours of my day was commuting. And I was working about 9+ hours on top of that. So it was dark when I left my house in the morning. Most times it was dark on the brink of getting dark, depending on the season, when I got home in the evening. And it just wasn't a life that I was happy with. I made good money. I had the money. But then when I really peel back the layers and I'm like, why am I doing this? Well, one, it was because I could. It was because I could. Single, not married, no kids. It's my life. There's nobody depending on me, to be home at a certain hour. So I always said that, okay, I will do this. I don't plan on doing it for a long time. But it turns out that 4.5 years, or I should say 4 years at that point, was too long. Especially when I found myself in a job that just was not fulfilling for me anymore. And so my rationale in stepping into back into the IT field was because I have a master's degree. And there are tons of jobs here in Richmond, Virginia, locally to where I am. That market is booming here. And so my strategy was, okay, what I'll do is I will find me a job in the IT space just to get it back at the top of my resume, make myself marketable in my local area because my goal at that point was like to get rid of my commute. Um, I had been doing work in diversity and inclusion, and I absolutely loved the mission. I loved my manager, my supervisor. I loved it, but I was tired of commuting. But I was okay doing it because I love the work. But tried to stay um, conscious of the fact that, okay, you hate this commute. You hate this commute. You hate this commute. You love your job, but you hate this commute. So let's make sure that we don't find ourselves being complacent and it's years and years and years and years and years. And this is not like the best situation. You love the job, but you don't like the commute. Like you want some of your time back. So the goal is to shorten the commute or get rid of the commute altogether. And so my strategy to get rid of my commute was, okay, if I'm getting rid of my commute, it's because I'm going to find something local in, where I live. And what is the path of least resistance? And for me, it was IT. I have a master's degree in IT. So therefore, I started looking for and applying for jobs that were tech related. And so just so happened that in my same organization, a position became available working in technology innovation. And so I put in for it. And my story is like plenty of other people. It's that one job that you put in for that you weren't really pressed about, but you did it because it was an opportunity and you put your name in the hat. And what do you know? That's the job that you get selected for, right? So I got selected for the job and I was still not 100% certain as to whether or not I wanted to actually take that job. But when I thought about like what my goal was, which was to shorten my commute, this was putting me on that path to getting to the shorter commute. Even though it was taking another position in the same building I was already in, it was putting IT back at the top of my, or technology at the top of my resume. So I took the job. I got in the job and it it didn't even take me 60 days for me to be looking at myself in the mirror like, how in the world did we get here? But I knew how I got here because I had a strategy. I had a plan and the strategy wasn't flawed and it was executed flawlessly. It was just what was on the other side of the strategy just wasn't it wasn't satisfying. It made it a hard task for me to get up and have to do every day. Just it was not in alignment with the person that I had become um, at that point in my life. So I find myself in this new job, and now I feel a little bit stuck because I'm like, well, wow, if I'm in technology and I'm thinking like, oh, wow, well, the point is for me to put tech at the top of my resume so I can make myself marketable in my local region. But then when I get into my local region, if I don't even like this type of work anymore, what am I doing? Like, where am I going to go? Like, what is my plan B? And so this is when I really dug deep and decided to look at my life circumspectly and figure out like what is my purpose? This is the moment when I started asking myself, what is my purpose? I started researching like how do you figure out your purpose? How do you know this? How do you know that? Um, and what it boiled down to for me, what I did was I began to look at what I was good at, what I enjoyed doing, like things that I do naturally that I would do for free. And then here was the key. This was the game changer for me. I began to look at what do people come to me for naturally? What do they come to me for? And so this particular job that I did not like also positioned me around a whole lot of people that I did not know. So I was meeting new people almost daily, which is the norm when you start a new position, you're in a new space, what have you. And so by this time, this might have been like 6 months in. Now I taken time to figure out my life, and then like I finally had the aha moment to like let me assess and see like what's my purpose, because whatever I do next, I want it to be in alignment with my my God-given assignment on my life, my God-given purpose for my life. I do believe in my heart of hearts that I have a purpose. I want to know what my purpose is so that I can move according to that, because I don't want any unnecessary strife and resistance, because I'm not moving in alignment, moving forward in alignment with my purpose. And so what I realized is that in this new job, I was meeting people, and when I reflected, I'm like, you know what? I always took note of how, like, people that were perfect strangers, we would engage in exchange pleasantries. And there were a couple of people who, even on our first conversation, and just like the getting to know you, hey, how's it going? I'm so and so. This is where I've been, how long I've been with the organization, what have you. I noticed that people would just share things with me that I wouldn't dare think to share with a perfect stranger. And that's just me and my personality, not being the most trusting at the outset. But so I always found myself being a bit perplexed at how people could be so forthcoming with me and just so comfortable sharing their business or their experience at a level deeper than the surface. And so I took that and I said, you know what? That's interesting. You know, my friends call me and tell me things, and people love sharing things with me, and I love to listen, you know, and it's coming at me from all these different angles and different perspectives from different people in my world. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something. Um, I've always had, I'll say not always. When I finally started my career, when I became a career professional back in 2007, um, and I started working with different personalities, I would always joke and say, I think I majored in the wrong thing in undergrad. I think I should have majored in psychology, because I'm so amazed with how people think, what makes them tick, with behaviors. You know, if I would go back, if I could do it again, I probably would major in psychology, but hindsight is 2020, and you just don't know. I majored in math in undergrad. So I have a bachelor's in math, a master's in IT, and then I had a longing for expertise in the psychology realm. Go figure. So anyway, I'm at this point about, at that point, it might have been like 11 years later. And I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. You know, I always said, you know, if I could go back again, I would go back for psychology. Maybe I need to go back to school and reassess and develop a new subject matter expertise so that I can move forward extremely knowledgeable and start a new career. I did my research and I saw like, what was it, 4 to 8 years to becoming a licensed counselor, whatever it was. It was too far out of the window of necessity for me. I needed a quick fix, a quicker fix. And somehow coaching came up for me. And so I was exploring the thought about coaching, becoming a coach, because it seemed like it was the path of least resistance, where I could go and get certified, develop this expertise, branch out and start a new career in some capacity as a coach, doing something that I was passionate about, doing something that I believe I was purposed to do, doing something that, you know, served others, and something that I'm also good at also. And so then I thought about it, and then I was just like, now mind you, I'm still doing 4 hours of commuting a day, processing all of this information somehow, some way, doing my job. And I'll be 100% transparent. Probably not even to the best of my ability, but this is what happens when you're burnt out. This is what happens when you're not fulfilled. And this is what happens when you are out of alignment with your purpose. Things become uncomfortable and you begin to show up in a way that is not as authentic to your personal brand as you may be used to and as others may be used to. It's like you become a different person. And for me, it was uncomfortable and it was unacceptable, because my personal brand, I had built it, taken over a decade in that particular organization to build it. And now I felt like my reputation, I felt like just how I was showing up was unacceptable to my personal standards. So I remember thinking like, okay, so I think I want to be a coach, but just like now this is a whole other thing to go find programs. And I had mustered up the energy and like the analytical ability. 'Cause my mind never stops. I'm an analyst by nature and by trade. And so that part kind of happened just organically. But then when it came to the point of like pulling the trigger, I could not muster up like the energy or the will to make the change. And so I remember being on my van ride back home to Richmond one evening, and a good friend of mine is a licensed counselor. And so something in me said, ask him if he knows any coaches. Um, because my life is out of control. My life is just out of control. And those were the words that I said to myself, like my life is out of control. I think I need a life coach. I had never, ever, ever, ever assessed a need for a coach prior to then. Even though I had started to explore it myself, I never thought I needed one. What just the fact that I said my life is out of control. Like, how can I want this change? How can I um, need this change? But then now I get to the point where like I can't even. I feel like there's cement on my feet. I can't even do this. And so I leaned over. I'm like, do you know any life coaches? And he's like, I actually do. I'll reach out to her and see if she's taking new clients and if I can give you her information. It happened like instantaneously. He passed along the information, and I set up my a consultation with her. So, long story short, we spoke. Um, she thought that she could definitely help me. I hired her, and that was the beginning of this new season in my life. I had done the work to find my purpose and to know what was next. I needed help being accountable. I needed help seeing my vision and my need and my goal through to fruition. And this is where my coach stepped in and became an absolute angelic godsend in my world. She held the space and created the boundary for me based on what I said I wanted. And there was built-in, baked-in accountability to help me get to where I said that I wanted to be. It was game changing. There were times when I had certain feelings about, where I was going, where I was going, what I wanted, what I didn't want. I lacked clarity. And she was right there with me, lock and step, session one through session whatever, however many sessions I had with her. And I'll never forget the reflecting point of who I was on session one when I showed up to meet her. And of course, as coaches, we have our particular systems on how we, um, uh, our intake process for new clients. And she asked me one question in our first session, and I think that was, tell me a little bit about yourself. And when I finished telling her who I was and where I wanted to go and how I had done the work to get me to this point of being in front of her and knowing what I needed her help with, she was amazed. And she said, well, okay, I'll put my assessments away because you clearly know who you are, and I will be glad to help you and support you on getting to where you want to be, which I had determined was a certified professional coach. Within a year's time, I did the work. I hired the coach. I had the accountability of a coach. I had the support of my coach. My coach went in the trenches with me in times where she could see my distress. She rolled up her sleeves with me. She believed in me. Oh my gosh, and this is making me emotional just because I know where I came from. I know how bad I wanted it, but I also knew that I was lacking um, the ability to do it by myself in that season. I was just being pulled in too many different ways, and I just did not have the will to do it by myself. I had the will to do it, but I just needed support. I needed accountability. And I invested in the help that I needed because I needed help. I asked for help. And look at me now. It took a little over 1 year for me to show up in the world as a certified professional coach. Had I not taken the first step, when I took the first step, I might not be a certified professional coach right now. I may still be out here trying to find myself. My coach was instrumental in ensuring that I had the space to be vulnerable, the space to be creative, to be authoritative, to define who I am, to show up how I want to show up, and to be who I said that I wanted to be. None of the outcomes of my experience with my coach are what she wanted outside of me checking my personal boxes. I created the vision. I came to the table with the vision. She was there to go through the motions of bringing my vision to life with me. She was there to support me. She was there to encourage me. She was there to provide other perspectives or provide insight on things as somebody who's outside looking in that may have been blind spots for me because I'm so close to my feelings and my visions and my dreams, and almost to my detriment because things can easily become a tangled web in my mind because my mind moves so fast. It moves so fast. And what she allowed me to do is cut out the noise, box us in. Let's talk about what you said you wanted. Tell me a little bit more. You said this. Is that still the case? Let me remind you, there's accountability. And within, I think it was about 3 months' time, I had selected my program of choice, which was Georgetown University's executive certificate in leadership coaching program. I had applied with my blood, sweat, and tears to that program. And then within 2.5, 3 months time, I found out that I was actually accepted into my program of choice. And it was off to the races. So that is my personal story on how hiring a coach changed my life. I could not have done it by myself in as short of a time frame that I did it. Yeah, I probably could have done it by myself, and I probably would still be sitting here figuring it out a year and a half later, at this point in time. But no, I hired the help that I needed, and it collapsed time in a way that I will forever be thankful for. And that was one of the best decisions of my adult life. And I'm ecstatic to be before you today, as a certified professional coach. So certification in hand and here to serve my clients and give back to my clients what was given to me so eloquently and so selflessly from my coach. So that is my personal coaching story on a big part of my why, even though I came to the table with my coach and wanting to be a coach. And so it helped me expedite my journey to becoming a coach, which is, just ironic in itself. I think it's a beautiful thing to just think through. But again, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting me. If you are not already a client, I look forward to serving and working with you and helping you bring your goals to fruition, helping you cut out the noise, and let's get to it. You have one life and you deserve to live your absolute best life. Again, I am Danielle, the coach, a certified life and leadership coach. I help millennials navigate life and leadership authentically, redefine success, and show up powerfully in any setting. If you like this video, please show me some love, like, comment, what have you, share. I'll be most appreciative, and I will see you next time.